Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to round number 4 here in Brazil, Barcelona, for the RaceFace GT3 Sprint Series and the Genisus Sim2Real Cars Series. My name is Stephen Koenig, and joining me in the booth, as always, is Janneman Press. Janneman, how are you doing this evening?
Hello. Doing well, and you, Steve? Good evening, everybody. Back for round 4. After tonight, we'll be halfway through the championship of both the GT3 Sprint Series and the Sim2Real Championship. Tonight, I think a lot of the guys like the likes of, Ryan Ottens, Bego Grobler, Daniel Rowe, if Daniel's here tonight, some serious practice for tomorrow evening. But having said that, the sprint race the Sprint Series has become a championship in its own right.
Oh, that's it. And the ones to keep an eye out for is going to be these Genisus Sim2Real. For anyone that is wondering why these cars are on circuit, these are the BMW M2 CS TCX cars. They fall into the TCR class cars. For anyone that doesn't know what's a TCR car, basically it's like your front engine touring cars, like your Golfs and that. This was a separate class built, so it allows BMW, Ginetta and the likes others of making these TCX types cars for gentlemen drivers to go racing in the SRO and in the 24-hour series. Now with the Genisus Sim2Real cars, the prize on the line for these guys is a season's drive in a Toyota Yaris GR. Now that is a monstrous prize to go and score, especially coming from a sim racing world into the likes of the real racing world, allowing these guys to live out their dreams. They have to complete the entire series, get to the top of the championship in these Genisus Sim2Real cars, then eventually move on to go and drive in a team in the 24-hour endurance later this year, which is going to be held at RaceFace. So interesting bits coming from there. The guys have a lot to try and claw their way up and lots of prizes on the line. But let's talk about Barcelona, shall we, while the guys are making their way around it. Barcelona, very tricky circuit. As we've seen, it's very heavy on the front tires, so tires are going to be a consideration for every single one of these drivers as they're going in trying to push it right to the top end. But at the same time, trying to keep some close racing is going to be very, very difficult. Janneman, thoughts on this?
Well, I did a fair amount of laps around Barcelona in the past couple of days. Especially the left front takes a huge knock. Personally, I was struggling a bit with tire temps on the left front tire. It tended to overheat on me. And then, Steve, the death of me is this last sector. That last chicane, that can absolutely make or break a lap. And in my case, it normally, it broke it good and proper.
And the guys have to also bear in mind it is a long race to go through, and the championship is on the line. The guys having to all put in the hard work and claw their way through up. Not only our RaceFace GT3 sprint cars, which we'll be seeing going out shortly. We've got a bit of a 10-minute split, allowing the M2s to do their qualifying, set their lap times. Ryan Otten setting his first lap time of a 2-minute, immediately being beaten out by Tariq Adam, doing a 158.8. Kurt Gloshkin coming in with a 2-minute .2, immediately getting beaten out by Michael LaRue, who did a 2-minute .1. So the guys are really getting close in terms of times, but this is what we've seen for the championship as well for these M2s.
Yeah, the guys, we've seen, a lot of close racing, especially at the front of the field over the last 3 races. And at this stage, I think the guys are gonna start, as we reach the halfway stage, they're gonna start getting very serious about this championship, because we're midway through. We need, after tonight, it's gonna go, as I say, go downhill to the end of the championship.
And it's going to be one championship to keep an eye out for. And they're going to be mixing wheels with our GT3s as we take a look from Michael Leroux's rear wing. This is going to be pretty much sites that the guys are going to have to take a look around. You can see the undulations of the circuit as they make their way around Barcelona. But not a very flat circuit. Simple things of trying to carry enough momentum, as Leroux's trying to do now, coming slightly off the throttle, feeding, going and leaning on the brake a little bit just to get the car settled and try and pull their way through. These are all little things that the drivers are going to have to try and constantly maintain if they want to claw their way to the top.
Yeah, and this section that he went through now, very easy to run wide as well, and outbrake yourself. Lap times 1:58.8 at this stage by Tariq Adams. That is a good 15 seconds slower than what some of the GT3 cars are going to do. And on a circuit like Barcelona, Stephen, I don't think passing is going to be that easy.
Exactly. Barcelona, a very tight circuit that's going to have the drivers navigating their way not only around the competition but also likes of multi-class racing. This is what makes it a bit more interesting. Take a look. Hannes van Wyk is actually 0.4 up on his last lap time, hoping to get a little bit closer to Tariq Adam. Tariq Adam leading out the charts at the moment, which is fantastic to see. Hannes van Wyk tries to come across the line and doesn't. He actually hits the brakes. Did a 1:59.1, so losing out right at the last minute. He was up on his time but couldn't pull it through. Ryan Ottens is also a competitor to keep an eye out for. He's been clawing his way through the championship, now 0.1 up on his last lap time, trying to get into those 58s, but it looks like Tariq Adam is managing to maintain that lead at the moment, but it's going to be a difficult one to do.
Yeah, there's a clear split at this stage at the top of the field. I mean, you're sitting with Tariq, you're sitting with Van Wyk, and then from there, Leroux almost a second behind Tariq Adams. So we'll see what the final stages of qualifying holds. Maybe that gap will close up and the field will close up. But Stephen, at this stage, from first till 12th place in this class, there is a 7.7 second gap.
That's it, and it really shows in terms of how much setup work is actually needed to try and get these cars a little bit better, considering they do understeer a lot more. They're not as nimble as our GT3 cars. This is a very tight circuit, so the guys are having to try and push the boundaries but not go and get track limits as well. So it's going to be a very, very difficult task. Ryan Ottens jumping up into 3rd place after his last time, and hoping that's going to be just enough to start him on a good wicket.
Not just that. But I want to say, not just that. I mean, the driving style between a GT3 car and a TCX car, or a touring car for that matter, very different driving style. What we used to do when we did a lot of touring car races, you actually use the brake bias to get rid of some of that understeer and get the rear of the car to rotate round.
These are the little things that the drivers are having to constantly try and figure out. What do they need to climb their way to the top? How far can they push these cars? And even though you're pushing it in qualifying with about 2 minutes left of their qualifying before our GT3s head out onto the circuit, how hard are you willing to push it right now? Or are you going to rather save it for your next, for climbing into the race?
Being a sprint series, that's the no pit stops involved, all those kind of things. But there is still a strategy, like you said. Are you going to go hard from the start and risk, losing those front tires, or are you going to hang back, at the start of the race or during the first half of the race, and by doing so, hope that you have a better car underneath you during the closing stages of the race than what your competitors around you might have?
And that's it. You've got to try and run a little bit of a balancing act to try and figure out what's going to be the right way to do things. How are you going to manage the tires? How much are you going to manage your fuel? And a lot of these guys are running a lot lighter in their tanks, hoping to try and pull their way up through against the competition. So there's little things to it. Also, how much aero have you got? This is also a fairly fast circuit with a lot of tight bends, as we saw on Paul Ricard, as we've seen on Kota, we've seen on many circuits. Setups when it's a kind of a hybrid circuit like what we have here at Barcelona, with the fast sweeps and tight corners, having a little bit more aero can actually help you. But as soon as you get to the faster straightaways, well, it leaves you dead for dust, and that's when the GT3s come piling past you. You're going to have to try get into their slipstream for a brief moment to try and pull yourself closer to the competition. Or if you haven't got enough aero, they're going to have an aero wash, and you're going to land up into the dirt because now you've got no pressure on the front or the rear of the car.
I'm glad you used the phrase brief moment, because that's all that it's going to be. You're just going to get a whiff of a slipstream and then it's going to be gone.
Well, as it looks like our Genisus Sim2Real class comes across the line. So first place is going to be Tariq Adden, followed by Hannes van Wyk. Ryan Ottens squaring up in third place. Michael Leroux in fourth. Christopher Radloff in fifth. Kurt Glaskin in sixth. Seventh place is Christian Esthaus. Then we got Johan Kleinans, who is going to be rounding out in eighth place at the moment. Grant Findaley going rounding out in ninth. 10th is Ruben Kleinans. Romano Jonker in 11th place. 12th place is Stefan Kutzer. Now we're moving on to our GT3s as they hit the circuit, going and making their way. And this is where it's going to get very interesting. We've seen some incredibly close racing from every single one of our GT3 drivers, hoping to claw their way up the ladder. And so far, it has been a chase down for the little Audi of, I'm just trying to find him here, and that's going to be Henry Mayer. Henry Mayer has made himself very well known with a TTH Team Tryhard Racing hot stuff class car, hoping to go for another win, but he's going to have a lot of pressure. In practice, we saw the likes of Christian de Ploy going and putting in some fantastic times, and the rest of the grid getting a little bit closer, doing 144s. So, how hard are these drivers needing to push to claw their way up? We're about to find out.
So far in this series, it's been kind of a mix-up. There's no dominant driver that has stood out yet. It's been kind of a mix. I mean, in the previous race, Morgan McCall, was absolutely dominant, but unfortunately, he had a mishap and things didn't turn out the way he wanted it to. But up until that stage, he was absolutely dominant in that race. But there's nobody to date that has really stood out. The last race we saw absolute epic battles. I mean, the GT3 guys, they rivaled the M2s when it came to side-by-side action. They weren't afraid to dish it out around the circuit of the Americas.
Well, now it's all on, as you saw the guys just warming up their tires, trying to get ready to go, giving each other a little bit of room so they can all get back onto the throttle and really push hard. I see Christian Venter still in the pits. He's going to be waiting it out. Morgan McCall, he's out on the circuit, the ATK sim racing driver, hoping to really push hard in the Wednesday series. Sujin Pillay, who's also been making his name well known in the sim racing world with a bit of design, going and setting up the pictures to send out on Facebook, and they've really been putting in a huge amount of work there, so well done to Sujin Pillay. Alan Patterson we saw coming out of the pits. He's getting himself going for the PWSR team. But now the time to beat is a 144, which we saw the guys doing at race pace. Are they going to be able to do it? Well, just taking a look. Werner Skuman going and putting in a 145.6 as his quickest lap time, with Hansi Myberg doing a 145.9, who is currently in second place. So the Team Tryhard Racing is really pushing hard with all their cars. Jason Luck jumping into that second place and he's hoping to go and really climb his way up. And in that Porsche, he has been quite a dominant force when it comes to battles around Brazil in previous runs. But let's see how close will he be able to do it. Bernard Barkhuizen jumping and doing a 143.9, so already faster than practice. But Morgan McCall only 0.062 behind him, doing a 144.052.
Yeah, it's still, I want to say it's early days in qualifying, but having only a 10-minute qualifying, the qualifying is so short, but we're not even halfway through yet. I've got a suspicion 143.990, that's going to be beat before the end of the session.
Well, taking a look, Morgan McCall is 0.4 up on the moment and the fastest in the sectors. He just needs to keep up the momentum to try and get ahead of Bernard Barkhuizen. But now the question comes in, putting yourself in first place around the likes of Barcelona, is it a good idea? Or maybe starting in second place, is that a little bit more advantageous? And Jason McGregor actually putting in a good delta as well. He's down in fourth place. He's really working hard in that Honda. Morgan McCall going and really pushing. He's hoping to just try and get a little bit closer to the line. Not going over the curbs as hard. Runs out a little bit wide there. Let's see, would that invalidate his lap though? And we've got to be so careful with invalidating your lap, especially with so short. But manages to box it right to the top, 143.695. Just ahead of Bernard Barkhuizen, who is looking to just try and claw his way back into that first place. Henry Mayer, who we've usually seen at the top end of the field, now in third place. Jason McGregor so close to him in times and hoping to try and get a little bit closer to the likes of that Audi, utilizing the Hybrid Academy Gamma Honda.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of the Honda, and it's a very pretty car, and it's an awesome sounding car. But Stephen, just to come back to a question you asked earlier, starting first or starting second, I'm going to answer that question by saying he who gets into the first corner first will have the advantage and have that clear track in front of him.
That's where the difficulty comes in. Henry Mayer trying to go up on his time. Sujin Pillay also putting a bit of a quick delta, and it boots him up into third place. And that's one way to stick a Ferrari up there, doing a 143.8. Sujin Pillay going and showing off what he can do with a good time, and hoping to get a little bit quicker. Christian Fenter coming across also in the Ferrari for the Iron Lynx. And for anyone that doesn't know the Iron Lynx, that was an all-female team, if I remember, in the GT3 racing. They actually did. They raced in the 24-hour of. They raced in the 24-hour Le Mans, I think they were in 24-hour Le Mans, actually in this very car.
It's actually an awesome-looking livery.
Oh, it's pink. Can't go wrong with it.
Yeah, but talking about liveries, Sergio Pillay, what happened to the Fiat on the Ferrari? I see the Fiat is gone. Maybe it will be back tomorrow night.
I'll have Toyota written on the side just to go and irritate. I've seen a recent color scheme where guys have actually taken the Ferrari color scheme and they've painted it with the Mercedes F1
I saw
colors.
that, yeah. I saw that. I suppose it didn't go down too well with the die-hard Ferrari fans.
I don't think it would be going down too well. Let's be honest, yeah. It's you don't quite do it. And Gavin Scroton saying, "How's it, Gavin? Glad to have you here. Really appreciate the pop in as everyone. Big thank you for joining us here at RaceFace for round number 4 of the GT3 Sprint Series and the Genisus Sim2Real Cars series as well. Take a look, Sujin Pillay actually going a little bit quicker, 143.6, putting himself firmly in first place. Morgan McCall only 0.015 behind. If you want to talk about some close racing, I think keep an eye on the Ferraris this evening.
Yeah, and yet again, different track, somebody else, steps up and steps into that pole position, at least for now. But, Sergio is not hanging around tonight. He's trying to prove a point here, it seems.
And Daniel de Matos Peto going and putting himself in 13th position at the moment. He's up on his time. If he can carry enough pace, though, he might be able to claw his way up. Gets caught out, unfortunately, losing that little bit of time, trying to get back onto his delta, but that's so difficult when you get caught up behind the guys. So a lot of the drivers having to really push it. But at the moment, Sujin Pillay is in first place. Morgan McCall down in a second place, along with Jason McGregor in third. Bego Krubler in fourth place. Christian Venter in fifth place. Sixth place at the moment is Bernard Barkhuizen. Henry Meyer down in seventh place. Werner Skuman in eighth place. Ninth, Gideon Reyna in his Audi. 10th place is Tinian Kube with that beautiful livery, but still not a big fan of the beaver teeth, but beautiful livery on that BMW.
You're just not gonna let that go, are you? You're gonna mention that somewhere in each and every race. You're just gonna throw it in there.
It's gonna, you know what? The day I stop mentioning it is going to be the day that BMW puts that car in the grave. And also they need to do a little bit of work with a LMDH car. And just take a look. Gavin's saying we'll see in the Pro-Am GT3 Championship tomorrow. Hey, glad to have you back, and also showing support for the Team Tryhard as well. So glad to see it. Qualifying is over. Final times to really stick it in. Morgan McCall hoping to get a little bit more pace. He's trying his almighty best at the moment. Bego Krobler actually with the fastest delta at the moment, trying to carry a little bit more momentum. 0.3 up on the rest of the field. He's down in 6th place, but it looks like Henry Meyer going and locking himself in that 3rd place for now, with Mac van der Merwe in 4th place. But guys are still trying to give it that last push till the line, as we keep an eye on Bego Krobler of the Hybrid Academy Domination team, currently the fastest on the circuit, hoping if he can keep this momentum up, might be able to steal that first place in the Aston Martin.
I mean, we haven't seen pole position change places, you know, after qualifying end. Would this one be the first time tonight? That's what I wanted to say. So I think we should keep an eye on Bego, and you know, as you know, he's now in the final sector, and this is the one where I struggle quite a lot. This next ride, and I tend to find myself running wide and then struggling to turn in for the chicane, and this is where I lose a lot of time. You need a car, Steve, under you that can change direction very quickly, that you can get on that power nice and early, you know, and start driving for the line.
Well, coming up to the line, and does it. Bego Krobler going and stealing first place away from Sujin Pillay. Morgan McCall bettering his time, and absolutely fantastic stuff. Sujin Pillay up into 3rd place, but what a run up to the line as we get ready to rock and roll for round number 4 here at Barcelona.
So, having found himself in 1st place, all of a sudden Sujin Pillay is down in 3rd. I mean, you know, you thought you were sitting pretty and having that clear track in front of you at the start of the race, but all of a sudden it's over.
Well, let's go through the grid. And Yellowman, would you like to take us through the grid?
Most certainly. 1st place, Bego Krobler, followed by Morgan McCall, Sujin Pillay in 3rd place, then Henry Meyer 4th place, Van der Merwe 5th, Jason McGregor 6th place, then we got Venter 7th place, Barkhuizen 8th, then Sebastian 9th, Skuman in 10th place. Then we look at our 11th places in Kube, 12th Renner, then 13th another Renner, 14th place Van der Westhuizen, 15th place de Matos Preto, 16th place Meyer, 17th Botha, 18th Miller, Cabasa 19th place, Alan Patterson only managing a 20th place, Westhuizen 21st, Botha 22nd, Maton 23rd, 24th Luck, 25th Van Heerde, 26th Duplessis, and then we've got Mr. Bertus Hugo in 27th place, Adam 28th, we're already into the BMW, Steve.
Yeah. Tariq Adam first of the BMWs, Hannes van Wyk in 2nd, Ryan Ottens in 3rd place, Michael LaRue in 4th, Christopher Radloff, Kurt Glasken, Christian Esterhaus, Johan Kleinans, Grant Vandeli, Ruben Kleinans, Romano Jonker, Stefan Kutzer going and rounding out our 39 car grid, and our fans on the side absolutely having a party while they're looking at these cars.
Yeah, they seem to be enjoying themselves a bit. So now, yet again, Steve, you're sitting on that grid, you're watching that clock run down, and you're waiting for this race to start.
Oh, that's it. The inside line is going to be Bego Krobler. So at this point, it's now to try and warm up the tires, warm up the brakes, try and get yourself ready to go. And you know, with a monstrous grid this size, the guys are going to have to really dig deep to try and pull out every trick in the book for this evening.
Yeah, exactly. We've got 40 cars on the grid tonight, and this track is not that long. It's not like the longer tracks out there like Spa or Bathurst or those type of things. So a 40 car grid is huge on a track of this size, especially when you've got a multi-class grid as well, with the TCX M2s and the GT3 cars on the track. So things can get very busy very quickly. We've got a huge GT3 field of almost 30 cars, and then I think it's 12 TCX cars on the track.
Oh, so we've got quite a few cars lined up ready to go, and the BMWs having to try and maneuver their way around. But the person that at the back of the GT3's Bertus Hugo not finding the pace that he wanted. Stefan Kutzer also a bit off the time on his qualifying for the BMW M2 TCX cars, the Sim2Real class. But a lot of the guys struggling around Barcelona, which is not uncommon. Unfortunately, this circuit is either you get into the flow or you don't.
It's also a circuit, you know, if you push too hard, where track limits can be a bit of an issue, especially if you start struggling with a bit of understeer and you got the front end of the car washing wide or not, you know, turning in as quickly as you wanted to. So I don't know if drive-throughs are going to be a factor in the sprint race. We might see one or two tomorrow evening in the grid championship, but I think we set for another exciting close race, especially at the front of the race. And I think, you know, there's a couple of guys that are going to get the gloves off and they're going to take it to each other.
Well, you're going to have to start getting your gloves off and get ready to fight, especially in the case of Bego, who has got Morgan McCall around him, has got Sujin Pillay. You know, he's got some incredible drivers right behind him, so the pressure's all on first right now as they make their way through. Hope your brakes are warmed up, hope your tires are warmed up. Ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be one heck of a race right down to the wire, and I gotta say, I'm super excited to see how this works for round number 4 of the GT3 Sprint Series here at Barcelona, and round number 4 of our Sim2Real Cars Series. So let's get ready to rock and roll and rumble. 70 kilometers now. Don't go any faster, otherwise you're going to get a jump start. But all eyes are going to be on Bego Krobler, and with Morgan McCall hoping to get the jump on him. Sujin Pillay lining himself up. You can see eyeing out that middle line as they get ready to go. Lights on, lights off, and away they go. Heading into turn 1, you can see the likes of Bego going and blocking that inside line, stopping Sujin. Morgan McCall sweeping across the nose, and take a look at the likes of Mayer starting to make his way through as they all pile into turn 1, trying to keep it all together. And also our BMWs all at the back piling in. Tariq Adam going and falling down a little bit there, but a bit of chaos as they make their way through. Contact though between all the little BMs, unfortunately, but clean at the front. But it doesn't look like one of our drivers, and that is Kleinons down in, oh, he's actually way down. He's going landed up with a drive-through.
Oh, not a bit of contact there. I think that was Pillay and one of the other Ferraris getting together there, and you know, that will result in them having to play catch-up. But the guys are getting very racy at the start of the race.
bit of elbows out racing, and now it is all on the charge as they make their way around the circuit. Grant Sebastian trying to defend against the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen while getting chased down, and Nkube going side by side with Bernard Reyna at the moment as they make their way through. And you can see Nkube just trying to close off that inside line, but the likes of our BMW of Vernus just going and maneuvering his way through and absolutely booting it past. So guys going properly elbows out, touring cars, elbows, knees, toes, heads, whatever can collide is all colliding for lap number 1 here at Barcelona.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a sprint race. This is no long race. So you need to get those elbows out and try and get yourself, up as far as you can. There's no pit stops that you can play with, no undercutting, no overcutting. So it's just pedal to the metal all the way to the finish line, and hope you don't pick up any damage, because Steve, a pit stop will really ruin your race here.
Well, as we've seen it, Bernard Reyna of the Vibe Squad trying to battle his way around. Christian Venter was actually part of the collision. We saw the little pink Ferrari go off the circuit, now having to make his way through. Hansi Myberg getting ahead of WT Bertha at the moment. SRC really trying to get on behind. Richard van Heerde in the Audi also trying to close down on them. But it is turning into a battle wherever you look. Bertus Hugo up into 22nd position as they make their way through. Tariq Adam holding on to first place of the BMW M2s, with Christopher Radloff a little bit further behind, and Michael LaRue 0.7 seconds behind, trying to catch up. So it looks like the BMW, the Sim2Real class has caught up, but the action going on for our GT3s at the moment is getting a little bit crazy and out of hand.
Yeah, these guys are having a proper battle, and I don't think they're gonna let up anytime soon. They've arrived and they are driving. Not that they've not done any practice. That's not what I mean. I mean they're taking to fight to each other. I mean, at this stage, in the front, Morgan McCall, and just behind him, 0.5 of a second behind him, is Henry Meyer, but Van der Merwe following him closely behind. So those three have opened up a little bit of a gap to McGregor, but the rest of the field running very closely to each other.
Bernard Reyna getting a little bit closer to the likes of Werner Skuman, so is Gideon Reyna trying to get a little bit closer to him as they make their way through. Alan Patterson now also getting right onto the back, so it is turning into a bit of a train for 10th, 11th, 12th, all battling it out as they make their way around the circuit.
Yeah, I see. Looks like a bit of understeer for that Aston Martin creeping in through that long sweeping right-hander. Van der Westhuizen has D'Amato Spreto behind him for company, and he's running very closely behind, and just behind him Nkube also wants a part of the action. It looks like Duplessis Audi is looking a bit second-hand there in the background.
Going and suffering a bit of damage there, and now just trying to carry it through. A little bit of light aero damage, but hopefully not going and hurting the car too much, but definitely going to start feeling on the tires a little bit later. But he is...
As we have a look now, the Matos Petro in that little Honda, really doing well at this stage, just keeping it on the track, and this opened up a slight little gap over Nkube, but there's no time to relax here as we see Venter going off again. So this is the second excursion for Venter off track, Stephen. Seems like we've lost Stephen for a while, but doesn't matter. Venter having his second accident as we see Sergeant Pillay putting in the fastest lap of the race. Now I wonder if Venter is going to, after two excursions off track, is he going to have a look at pitting? The Ferrari doesn't look too bad at this stage. Seems like he's going to keep out on track, but having said that, it might hurt the tires as he actually had a look there on the inside. And now we're going further up the field to Bernard Barkhuizen. He's fighting it out with Bego Grobler in front of him. Bago closing up right on the back of Bago. The McLaren certainly looks a bit quicker than that Aston Martin through the corners. Might also be the difference that we're sitting with a battle here with a front engine car and a mid-engine car, and the mid-engine car having a bit better rotation through the corners, and the front engine Aston Martin maybe suffering from a bit of understeer there.
I have to agree with that one. Mac van der Merwe in third place, now getting right onto the back of Henry van der Merwe. So we're now having the Audis coming to blows with one another, and you can see right onto the back of him, Henry obviously not running as much aero as Mac van der Merwe, and that's allowed Mac to go a little bit later onto the brakes, go deeper into the corner and go after that second place. But the likes of Bago down in 6th place, you got Sujin Pillay down into 5th, Morgan McCall up into 1st, but not running away as much as he wants to.
No, not like the previous race. I mean, the previous race, Morgan just, stepped out in front and he was away. But at this stage, Meyer and Van der Merwe pretty much keeping him in check. But what's helping out Morgan at this stage is the fact that Meyer and Van der Merwe, they are in a battle, so they're going to slow each other down a bit, which might allow, I see the gap now to Morgan from Meyer is now up to 1.2 seconds. So, as you see Van der Merwe, that Audi getting a bit squirmy through that right-hander.
Gideon Reyna going after the back of Grant Sebastian, and once again Audi versing BMW. Bernard Barkhuizen just up ahead, getting closer to Bago Krobler. But all the guys really starting to push hard. But now how much damage is being done to these front tires, as we see a couple of the Astons going and late braking, and I think that was the likes of Bernard Reyna going out a little bit too far, having that understeer underneath him and not benefiting him. So do you think the tires are getting a bit too hurt now and the guys are pushing him a little bit too hard too early on?
Well, that's what exactly happened to me when I did a bit of practice. Within a couple of laps, especially that left front tire, as I mentioned, it takes a beating, and it's almost within 5-6 laps running, they start going off a bit and you can't get those quick lap times anymore. Your lap times stop dropping, as we see Skuman having a look there on the inside of Renner running a bit wide there. Oh, it's actually Renner on the inside there, sorry, got a bit mixed up there. The BMW running a little bit wide there, so that BMW looks like it's starting to suffer that understeer, Stephen.
That's it, and taking a look to our Sim2Real, a little bit of a battle going on here. It's Kirk Kloshkin battling out with Christian as they make their way around, trying to go up on the inside and go side by side. Both drivers really pushing as hard as they can to just move their way up through the field. At the moment, a little bit further down than planned, but it looks like Tariq Adam putting nearly a 4-second gap between himself and Christopher Radloff at the moment has definitely come into benefit. Taking a look at our GT3, so Werner Skuman is only 0.4 behind Grant Sebastian at the moment. Bernard Reyna now trying to get a little bit closer to them. As you can see them starting to battle it out through our BMW M2s, our Sim2Real class, now starting to come into play with all our GT3s.
Yeah, and this is where that that skill of multi-class racing comes in. Battling it out with each other while still passing the other class, which is also in its own race, and it's a case of mutual respect.
You've got to learn to give and take, and at the same time it's very difficult considering you guys are all in your own battle as well. So you've got to try and figure out where are you going to be able to climb up through everything, where are you going to be able to push, how hard are you going to be able to push. It is going to be one incredible race right to the line.
Yes, you see Van der Merwe, going around the outside there, followed by McGregor. So they're not hanging around, getting past the BMW beautifully, as in the background we see, McGregor in the background getting past the BMW as well. So it's actually a place like this on the pit straight where you want to catch the BMWs, because that makes the passing of them very easy.
And just getting messages from other communities jumping in. A big shout out to Monday Night Racing coming out and saying good luck to all the drivers and some incredibly close racing. A lot of these guys actually participate in Monday Night Racing, now are going to have a bit of fun here at RaceFace, as we see Bego Krobler trying to get a little bit closer to Sujin Pillay, losing out a bit of time, Bernard Barkhuizen getting onto the drive. But that really shows how the communities are really mingling with one another, working with one another, and really cheering on all their friends, doesn't matter which class they're in.
Absolutely. I mean, between MNR and RaceFace, you know, there's a lot of guys that race in both communities, so it's supporting each other in between the communities. Steve, there's just one thing I quickly want to touch on. Gavin Scruton asked us if you guys are commentating on the Spa 24-hour in December. Now I'm going to put Stephen on the spot here. Gavin, I'm going to say no, because I'm trying to convince Stephen to actually race in that 24 hours of Spa.
To come back and do a race in a 24 in the ACC. It's been a while. Oh, bit of contact. That is Bernard Barkhuizen and Bego Krobler coming together, and unfortunately losing out a lot there. Bego trying to get his all back in check. Bernard Barkhuizen now moving his way through. Gideon Reiner, Werner Skuman and Grant Sebastian are like, well, thanks very much. We'll keep up the pace. Well, going back to the 24, we will have to see. The only way you're going to find out is you're going to have to keep an eye on the social media pages. You're going to have to keep an eye on RaceFace. Subscribe, hit that like button and that bell notification icon, because all I can say is we're not quite sure what's going to happen there. It's going to be exciting.
At this stage, I'm trying to convince you that it's only me and you doing that 24. So 12 hours each sounds like a bit of fun.
Wouldn't be the first time.
No, it won't be the first time.
Oh, contact once again. Bernard Reiner going and coming together with Bego Krobler. So Bego being a little bit of a getting punted around a bit. That's allowed Alan Patterson to get onto the back and start trying to push his way up through the field, trying to get past that 13th place. He wants to get into that top 10, maximize the points for the PWSR team.
Yeah, I mean, Alan is taking, I guarantee you, Alan is taking this very seriously for practice for tomorrow night to see what the car is going to do over a 45-minute stint. I know tomorrow night's a lot longer, but you get a lot of data running a race like this. And, you know, this championship and using it as practice for tomorrow night. Alan up to 13th place, not doing too badly, because remember, he started way back in 20th place. So he's making a drive up the field, and, you know, at this stage, unfortunately, you know, you need to take what's coming your way, and if you can gain a couple of places by the misfortune of others, it's not the best, but you know, you'll need to take it. You see the guys running side by side through that sweep. I mean, we've got Miller, Wistays and everybody around him. They're not hanging around, Steve.
Richard Frenier trying to keep out the likes of Duplessis, with Darren Miller chasing him, Peter Wistays, and we saw them coming up onto the BMWs, really pushing as hard as they can. I mean, this is one of our biggest groups of close racing at the moment, and it's turning into quite a battle between them. Looks like Frenier is managing to pull a gap, but Miller in that Lamborghini now having the likes of Quinn Duplessis right onto the back of him, trying to push as hard as he can to make up a bit of ground.
Yeah, that lone Lamborghini getting swamped by a couple of Audis there.
It's turning into one heck of a race. A little bit further up, Bego Krobler getting onto the back of Grant Sebastian. Alan Patterson making his way around. You can see that's one of our BMWs. But let's take a look at what's happening with our Sim2Real cars. At the moment, it is Tariq Adam just trying to keep his nose all clean, opening a door for the GT3, saying, listen, just go past, don't want any problems here. He's got Christopher Radloff that's sitting 5.4 seconds behind and getting absolutely swamped as the GT3 class comes by. Michael LaRue in third place, a little bit further down, sitting about 3.1 seconds, followed by Ryan Ottens. And here's a nice little twist. Our GT3s, Ruben van der Westhuizen, who had to go into the pits, now trying to get past. He's in 30th, going 29th. So he's actually racing these TCR X-Class cars for position.
Yeah, and the problem with that is, and me and you have had it a couple of times, the M2s are not going to get blue flags. So they're not going to get a warning that there's a quick GT3 car coming up behind them. They'll have to make use of their rear view mirrors, as we see now. But, you know, Van der Vesta is in battling there with one of the M2s, and as you said, that is full position.
So getting past LaRue, now up into 28th, taking a look, Dean Cabasa, and this is where it's all coming into play. The guys are running into a bit of a slower class at the moment, it's changing things up. Take a look at Christian Venter as he's trying to do everything he can in the Ferrari, but it looked like, forgive me if I'm wrong, that might have been the light. Trying to see, was that Christopher Radloff that had to take evasive maneuvers as they came bolstering by, trying to do everything they can. Jason Luck also in a race of his own, but this still three-way dice a little bit further back in the field, now trying to make their way around the likes of Tariq Adam and side-by-side moments. Dean Cabasa holding that inside line, really trying to keep it all together as he holds his position against Hansi Myberg, with Christian Venter chasing down, trying to go on the outside. So Christian really trying to get a little bit of momentum to get ahead of the BMWs. But this is where the mix is coming into play, having these little bit slower vehicles now going and causing one heck of a race for our GT3s, and a bit of a struggle for the guys as we move further up. Take a look at Mouton in the BMW, trying to get a little bit closer to Grand Sebastian. Bago Krubler right behind, trying to put pressure on him. Bago trying to go to the outside. Mouton going and defending that inside line, making sure that he can't get by. Sebastian checking his right mirror, his left mirror, trying to figure out where are these guys, what's happening as they make their way around. Taking a look, Morgan McCall actually into the pits. So something has gone awry with Morgan McCall. He has now gone into the pits. That is a massive, massive blow for the ATK driver, as he's getting himself sorted. Might have actually scored a penalty, I don't know, but no, that's just changed. That's changed it up.
There was no penalty. There was no penalty unless Morgan, it looks, I can only speculate, unless Morgan is doing a tyre chase and the tyres on that Merc is dead. So we see one of the BMWs going off in the background. But Steve, I think at this stage we can only speculate what happened there. I mean, last week Morgan was running quite comfortably in front, and he actually also had to do a pit stop. But I think that was maybe a technical difficulty. Don't know what's going on tonight, but he's dropped right the way back to 9th, or further than 9th place, sorry. Lost a bit of sight. He's
actually taking a look. I don't see him on the board.
Yeah, I think Morgan McCall has suffered another technical difficulty maybe.
What a change up, ladies and gentlemen, and wow, my heart goes out to the McCall family and the ATK Sim Racing team for that. But now the challenge is on for the guys to really step up. Henry Mayer back into first place, 3.3 seconds ahead of Mac van der Merwe, as we keep an eye on this battle for 9th, 8th, 9th and 10th. And you can see Bago really running wide, and likes of Bernard Rayner and Alan Patterson getting into the mix as well. So this 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th, all with under a second of one another, and they're starting to run into one of the back markers. Our BMW's Bago getting a little bit arms out with Grand Sebastian. Sweeps across the nose, a little bit of net coding there, but they worked. BMW jumping out the way. Like, I don't want to hang around this, because this is a monstrous battle right now.
Yeah, I mean, this has turned into a 5-car battle. I think this is the biggest battle we've seen on track to date, as they go 3 wide into turn 1. Little bit of contact there. That was, I want to say inevitable, but you know, 3 wide into turn 1, I don't think that's going to go.
Well, that's
and look at Alan.
Alan moving up in the position there. Grant Sebastian sitting with a bit of a smile on his face, but take a look, Bago getting a little bit arms out with WT Bertha coming across the nose. Oh, and loses the tail end. He falls way down, losing out to Bertha. Now has Bernard Rayner coming by, so he's down into 13th position. But this is turning into a monstrous fight, and this isn't even for the lead. These guys are, another contact. That's Bago and Bernard Rayner coming into one another, and bit of a nasty accident there, but that's allowed Dean Cabasa Christian Venter and Hansi Myberg to start capitalizing on it. But the racing is just heating up. And, well, we've gone from just side-by-side racing to a contact sport at this point.
I think at this stage, Alan just wants to get past Sebastian and get away from this action.
Oh, he's got the likes of Mouton right behind him. Sebastian is hanging on for dear life. And, I mean, we've talked about having rugby moments and rugby being a big thing. Well, obviously, GT3 racing, paint swapping, this is what it's been. And these GT3 drivers are really having to show what they can do, climbing up through the ranks and really trying to battle it out, getting ahead of our BMW M2s, our Sim2Real, which is currently at the moment Tariq Adam with a nearly a 10-second lead over second place, Christopher Radloff.
Yeah, Tariq at this stage, sitting comfortably. I don't want to say he's running away with it, because keep in mind he's got GT3 cars all over the place to deal with as well.
Just taking a look at this battle as they make their way through. Grant Sebastian just trying to open up the gap away from the likes of Alan Passon. Mouton feeling the pressure from Bertha, chasing him down as they battle their way around the circuit. A little bit further back, Bernard Rayner feeling the pressure of Dean Cabasa, and Christian Venter making a comeback at the moment in 14th place. He has had a pretty devastating early race, now trying to really push hard. And now, as you heard, halfway mark completed. Now it is time to really push to try and claw your way up into the ladder. That top 10 is available, and all these drivers are really going to try and do it. Drive-through penalty for Venter. So Christian Venter getting track limits there, gets a drive-through penalty. That's going to put it into his little dice at the moment. He's got 3 laps to serve it, but that's one of the things the guys have to be so careful about. A little bit further up, Sujin Pillay battling it out. Jason McGregor managing to get by, straight lining him. Sujin trying to get into that toe and really try to sneak up on the inside. Hard on the brakes, can he do it? That decides that he's going to rather back out of it.
Yeah, I think Surgeon saw what the BMW coming up, and maybe, strategic move to just stick behind McGregor. He didn't want to get boxed in by that BMW and allowing McGregor to take advantage of it.
Honestly, we talk about the closest racing between the season, and round number 4 with having 5 to 6 cars slugging it out for position has been the closest racing we have had all season long, and it is still going with a 3-way battle between Richard van Heerden, Darren Miller, Peter Oosthuizen, all super close to one another. Ryan Otten's actually getting right up to the back of Christopher Radloff, aiming for that second place in our Genisus Sim2Real car class, which is absolutely phenomenal in terms of these guys are really pushing everyone to the limit.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say they look slow compared to now that you're switching to the GT3s, but those guys are pushing, as you said, those cars to the absolute limit. They are properly racing those cars. As we see now, Renner and is it Boerta are going side by side here again. Interesting section to go side by side. I think Renner might want to slot in behind him as they go through here. Boerta gives him enough space. He's keeping that Aston Martin as they come up to a BMW. Both going to go on the inside. Oh, contact. That has allowed Cabasa to open, to close up, and now it's a 3-way battle all of a sudden.
That's it. Boerta going and landing up a little bit sideways, losing a bit of drive. Renner managing to get a little bit more, trying to sweep across the front. Dean Cabasa getting involved into the fight. Now, this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky. Remember, this is 11th, 12th, and 13th place, so close to one another. Alan Patterson trying to go after Grant Sebastian a little bit further up, as we can see them going side by side. Grant trying to go and defend against Alan. Mouton dropping off the back a little bit, but still some side by side. Sebastian managing to hold his position, and you could see the likes of Alan really gripping, trying everything he can to maintain his position and try and get past. I mean, this is absolutely hammer and tongs racing for the guys. And as we go and take a look to our Genisus Sim2Real, Ryan Otten still right on the back of Christopher Radloff, trying to force him into a mistake. But nothing happening as yet. Maybe the GT3s are going to come into play and start affecting this entire battle. As we head back up the field, Alan Patterson losing out a little bit of time to the likes of Grant Sebastian a little bit further back. We got Rainer Buerta and Dean Kabasa going and racing, and they've got a bit of a BMW to get by in some of the trickiest parts. You could see Alan going and flashing his lights saying, listen, I'm coming through, please do not run into any problems right now. Buerta getting boxed in, unfortunately, and you could see the likes of Dean Kabasa just going a bit elbows out, trying to just get around these guys, and gets right up behind one of our Genisus Sim2Real cars, losing out a bit of time.
Get him two around. Now back to Mayberg, and we've got Bertus Hugo in front of him, up to 14th place. So Bertus also on a bit of a comeback drive here, but he's also now behind one of the BMWs, needing to get past as quickly as possible. Otherwise, Mayberg is going to get an advantage on him coming down the straight.
Well, it's all about just trying to straight line it at the moment. Bertus Hugo starting to open up that gap, but take a little look behind as you got Jason Luck right up behind Tini Nkube, looking to try and box him in. Nkube managing to just get past, stands on the anchors, trying to slow that BM down. And Jason Luck in the Porsche now getting right onto the back of him. You see how the multi-class effect starts causing a little bit of a havoc for these drivers. Doesn't matter whether you're in the faster class or the bigger class or the smaller class, the racing is still the same. You've got to try and hang on for dear life as we head through to Mayberg after Bertus Hugo once again. Jason Luck getting right onto the back of Nkube. So I'm just, wherever you look, there is some proper good racing at the moment.
Yeah, it's, you mentioned that this is the closest race yet, and I think I made the comment last week that last week is what was the closest race yet. So what is next week going to bring? Because the battles are just getting closer and closer up and down the field.
And it doesn't matter where you look, and you can hear Miller just going and working on that throttle, just trying to keep that Lamborghini stable as he chases down Oosthuizen, really getting onto the back of that Audi, hoping to try and get a little bit closer. Richard van Heerden losing out a little bit of drive though, and losing out a bit of time. You can see Miller trying to go on the outside with a Race for Hope driver, really focusing on a hard charge to try and claw his way back up through the field. And go backing up to 4th place, Jason McGregor in 3rd place now has Bernard Barkhuizen to deal with, as it looks like they're managing to get round. That might be Tariq Adam that they were blasting past. And proper racing wherever you look.
Yeah, I think Surgeon is gonna try and close that gap down to make it a 3-car battle, or he might just sit back for a while and see how Barkhuizen and McGregor wears each other out. Because what I mean by that is tires are going to take a knock, and Steve, 16 minutes left. I think these front tires on some of these cars are screaming. They've had enough.
Front, rears, whatever is connected to some form of steering is currently having a bit of a difficult time. Jason Luck trying to go and get a little bit of a drive on Nkube, looks to try go on the outside. Nkube sweeps across the front of his nose, holding him back at the moment. And well done to Nkube. He's doing whatever he can to hold back the Porsche. Looks like Jason going up on the inside. Can he carry the drive? Nkube just with a little bit more acceleration, hoping that he can keep it all together. But it looks like Nkube just managing to get a little bit more of a run. Peter Oosthuizen right up to the back of Van Heerden, a little bit further behind as they go and do battle once again. And these three have been slugging it out good and proper through the race. Miller just going in late braking and throwing the car in. It is a really amazing time.
Yeah, they're going to go either side of that BMW, and Miller there in the background trying to take advantage of the BMW, but couldn't make it stick as it closes right up to the back of Van Heerden. That lone Lamborghini in this race, Stephen, I think it's the only one, and currently is making that car stick.
Well, it's making it work, and going up to 5th place. Take a look at this. Eugene Pillay, we were just talking about it, whether he's going to just keep an eye on the battle. Now going and turning up the heat onto the back of Bernard Barkhuizen, hoping to get a little bit more pace underneath him to try and get past Bernard Barkhuizen, really pushing hard in that McLaren to try and pull away, but it is going to be a difficult run as Sujin's got a lot of drive underneath him. A little bit further down the field, we got the like of Muton, who is holding back the likes of Bertha. And if we head even further back, we got Hansi Myberg going after Dean Kabasa. Take a look at this little gaggle as they all slug their way through. Bertus Hugo also managing to get by just, but it now is starting to get into a little bit of an interference with the likes of our BMW M2s as they make their way around. And that's Ryan Ottens, who's hoping to try and get a little bit of a drive on Christopher Radloff, utilizing the GT3 chaos.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're calling it chaos, because that's pretty much what it is at this stage. I mean, the GT3 is passing either sides of those BMWs, while Ottens and Radloff is still in their own fight.
And I'm just looking in the chats here. I've got a little bit of a proposal going on. Congratulations, you two. Just to old see it says Shane away, and Aria Creative going and giving some flowers there. So just to say congratulations to you chaps.
Oh man, this I wanted to say to you earlier, this is almost like doing cards commentary. That's the pace of the racing that's going on, as we see Alan going around the outside there of, is it Sebastian in the BMW? I think Sebastian giving him a little bit of a flash there, and he's going to try and come back at Alan.
Going and just leaning on him ever so slightly, Sebastian saying, listen mate, I will remember that, as he tries to go up on the inside and really focus on that charge once again. But absolutely phenomenal running. A little bit further down, take a look at Dean Kabasa going after Bertus Hugo, trying to make his way through. Hansi Myberg also trying to close in on the battle. Jason Luck getting onto the back of Nkube as they see the Sim2Real cars just ahead of them, and it's turning into a bit of a monstrous fight. Richard van Heerden though going a lot slower than planned, falling way down the order, and now has to try and claw his way through as he battles his way around our M2s. But at the moment, Tariq Adam, take a look, 14.5 seconds ahead of Ryan Ottens, who is trying to hold back the likes of Christopher Radloff, 1.3 seconds behind him. It's turning into one heck of a race for our little BMWs. They're not as close as what we usually see them, but I think at the moment the guys are just holding on for dear life, as we see Christian Venter going around the outside in that GT3. He is properly trying to chase down and make a bit of moves on the likes of Richard van Heerden, but getting caught out ever so slightly, and now has to try and get past our BMWs, which is, I mean, this is the fun about multi-class racing, I have to say.
It's an interesting skill, I want to call it. I mean, it goes for both classes, the GT3 and the M2, because you need to know how to pass a car safely, and you need to know how to get passed by a car safely. So in the BMWs, it's all about being predictable, driving that predictable line, and just let the GT3s go through. They are quicker than you. Sometimes it's better not to just jump out of the way and just be predictable.
Well, taking a look, Sujin Pillay landed up getting boxed in, losing out of position. Now has got the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen all over the back of him, trying to force a mistake. But well done to Jason McGregor, who boxed in Sujin Pillay, then just stomped on the gas and got around him, utilizing the slower cars to just do it. Sujin trying to go a little bit. Oh, contact! Sujin Pillay landing up with contact with on the Sim2Real. Bernard Barkhuizen landing up, also part of that mix, as he's now going to start falling down the field as they come by, and all our BMWs just trying to keep it all together and trying to just get back up and going safely, rejoining the circuit.
Now looking at Jason Luck in that fight with Nkube and Myberg in front. These three are also in a very close battle, and Luck trying his luck to get past there.
Really focusing on a bit of a hard charge at the moment, getting onto the back of Nkube, under braking, but just doesn't seem to have the same straight line pace as the likes of that BMW, lying in 16th position just ahead of him, and Nkube trying his might to get a little bit closer to Hansi Myburg as all three of them start down in a tow down the straight. You can see Myburg holding that tight inside line, hoping that he's going to be able to do it. Sweeps across the nose, under braking, and just holding back the likes of Nkube. Jason Luck a little bit later on the brakes. That Porsche jumping around like it is Herbie and really making its presence felt.
Yeah, just the one thing I noticed, I've been keeping an eye on that Porsche for the last half a lap or so. Definitely looks like the Porsche has got a better front end to it than the BMW of Nkube. See, as we see Nkube run wide again, I just mentioned it, so definitely, Steve, I think that BMW is starting to suffer from a bit of understeer, and the Porsche just breezing past. That's the word I was looking for.
You ran out of English.
My English is like airtime. Sometimes it runs out.
Grant Sebastian trying to get a little bit closer to the likes of Alan Patterson, really pushing hard. The Heartbreak Motorsport BMW getting onto the back of that PWSR car. Just taking a look at one of the BMW M2s ahead of him. A little bit of a close battle still going on. Jason Luck, Hansi Myburg and Nkube as they make their way through. You can see Myburg just losing a bit of drive, and it looks like one of the other Porsches that's a little bit further down the field going and getting all types of squirrely. I think that's Van der Westhuizen who's trying to make his way back up through the field. Not going to be an easy run though.
No, definitely. And I was just bragging about that Porsche, having a better front end, but all of a sudden the Luck, it looks like he's starting to struggle with the front end of that Porsche, running wide at a couple of corners in a row.
Yeah, and the guys are really focusing on a bit of a hard charge at the moment. Our GT3's really going and putting in a great effort. Unfortunately, our Sim2Real car's a bit more broken up. But I think at this point it's just driving about survival, as Nkube trying to make his way through has to opt to go really out wide as they split around, and you can see, oh man, this is very, very close racing. Nkube just able to try and keep it all together, but losing out a lot of drive to Jason Luck up ahead. One of the BMWs just trying to rejoin. But yeah, it's all about survival at this point.
Yeah, Nkube making up a whole new racetrack there.
Well, run off, rest of the circuit, same thing. Don't stress about it.
He's using the alternative course there, as we now have a look at Cabasa and Virtus duking it out. I think Dean Cabasa just wants to get past Virtus, maybe a bit of bragging rights. Just saying, I beat you.
Oh, you want to beat Mr. Raceface himself a little bit further back, though. Take a look onto the brakes. Luck trying to go around the outside of Hansi Myburg. Now is really keeping throttle in, but unfortunately just couldn't make it happen. Really trying to make it stick. Goes on the inside. Myburg runs out wide, losing out that drive. Luck up into 15th position. Now needs to try and pull away after all that fighting. Now needs to dig deep to get away from Hansi Myburg. At the moment, it is turning into one heck of a race. Wherever you look, the guys are really giving it everything they got. Taking a look, Tariq Adams still all lonesome by himself in first place. Ryan Ottens in second place, 2.5 seconds behind Christopher Radloff, 5.1 seconds Michael LaRue, and that really shows how it comes into play of just having all these bigger class cars coming around you on a very, very tight circuit like Barcelona, and it can switch up the entire style. It's all about survival, picking your moments to climb up, and how consistent you can go. For these GT3s, it's all about trying to get past the guys as fast as possible and not lose too much time.
Yeah, most definitely. In both classes, GT3 and M2, we spoke previously about that skill of multi-class racing. So Steve, it's not just all about flat out pace. There's also a lot of skill involved in negotiating that traffic in
both classes, both in the M2 and in the GT3s. And he who can, you know, do it best normally does well in the race, so to speak.
At the moment, it is Henry Mayer up in first place, Mac van der Merwe in second. Third place is Jason McGregor, Sujin Pillay in fourth place, trying to make his way around. Gideon Reyna in fifth place, Bernard Barkhuizen in sixth, Werner Schumann in seventh. Eighth place is Alan Patterson. Ninth is Grant Sebastian. Bernard Reyna down in 10th place as we go down to Bertus Hugo, who's caught onto the back of WT Bertha just ahead of him as they're making their way around the TCX cars. And some proper sweeping motions there from all the drivers. Now it's a drag race down to turn one. Who's going to be later on the brakes? You can see Bertus Hugo just sweeping across the nose, forcing the likes of WT Bertha to get on those anchors and slow down. But Bertha is coming back and going to give Hugo a run for his money, saying, listen, Bertus, you might be Hugo boss of RaceFace, but you ain't the boss in this race.
Yeah, Bertus got past Bertha because Bertha ran wide out of the last corner, actually going onto the dirt a bit, and I think that killed his drive. So I think that fight is by no means over as we switch over to Bernard Barkhuizen, currently running in 6th place. He's got Gideon Renner almost 3 seconds up the road from him, but as I said, 3 seconds, he's close right up to the back of Renner there. I think Renner struggled to get past that BMW a bit. And, you know, that's one of the things that I mentioned earlier, that skill of passing. Yes, you can catch a BMW on a wrong part of the track, and Steve actually lose a lot of time because of it.
Well, if you want to talk about losing a lot of time, Henry Mayer's got a problem. Mac van der Merwe with under a second now right up on the back of him, hoping to try and steal that win away from him. So the race for first place is not over just as yet. As we thought Henry Mayer's opened up just enough space, well, it's all changed over, and van der Merwe has really dialed it up now to try get in so close to the likes of Henry Mayer, just a little bit ahead.
Yeah, I think there's just about 2 laps remaining, maybe only 1 lap after this, so 1.5 laps. So if van der Merwe is going to make a move, he needs to make it very quickly. As we move back to Barkhuizen running behind Renner there, and I think Barkhuizen will also, you know, time's running out, and sometimes, Steve, it can lead to desperate moves.
It's all in for a massive race, charging down. Bernard Barkhuizen getting really close to the back of Gideon Reyna, hoping to try and force a mistake as they make their way around the course. And as you brought up, there's about 2 laps left roughly. Dean Kabasa actually losing out a bit of drive to WT Bertha, was getting super close, but unfortunately just couldn't hang it out, and losing a bit of time there. The front end just giving out underneath him as we jump back to Bernard Barkhuizen side by side with him, going against Gideon Reyna, but Reyna not giving up, still going door to door and getting ahead. So it is Audi versus McLaren for the likes of 5th and 6th place. And now we have just got confirmation from crew chief Tim saying that our leader is on the last lap, so everyone needs to give it up. Big thank you to crew chief Tim. Glad to have him around. It's been very helpful with all the drivers.
Yeah, well, I think you've actually paid him for this race, so you know, he's doing a bit of a better job tonight. But as we saw Barkhuizen and Renner, Barkhuizen losing out to that BMW through the last turn, and that has you know, allowed Renner to, or not Renner, let me switch that around. Renner losing out to the BMW, and that has allowed Barkhuizen to close up right behind him through the course of the pit straight.
I'll take a look at this. You want to talk about close racing? Take a look at WT Bertha and Grant Sebastian just slightly ahead of these two. Dean Kabasa getting into the toe, hoping to try and outbrake it to turn one. Looks to the inside, just couldn't make it stick as they make their way through. But this is turning into a little bit of a 3-horse race between the two of them. And just noticing a little bit of bumping and barging coming from Gideon Reyna and Bernard Barkhuizen at the moment as they try and power their way around the circuit. But Mayer at the moment been doing incredibly well, up in first place, looking to try and make it across the line. going and getting another checkered flag if he can keep it all together.
Yeah, I'm just quickly having a look at the YouTube chat, and Navara Creative saying at least we don't have Jeff tonight as a crew chief.
Oh, you know, we've got to say Tim's been rather helpful, sort of, maybe. Sometimes he tells me I'm driving too slow. But there we go. We got confirmation. Henry Mayer coming across the line in first place. Mac van der Merwe taking second place, with Jason McGregor finishing up in third place. Sujin Pillay now going to be coming across the line, taking fourth place after a real effort, along with Gideon Reynard. Bernard Barkhuizen just losing out that little bit of drive. Werner Skuman down in 7th place. 8th place, making his way through, is the PWSR driver Alan Patterson, with Bernard Rayner now making his way around, but not too far behind is Mouton, if he can't come off the throttle just as yet. Mouton finishing up in 10th place. 11th place going to Bertus Hugo, followed by Grant Sebastian, Dean Kabasa, WT Bertha finishing in 14th place, with Jason Luck finishing in 15th. Going down to our M2s, Tariq Adam taking first place, Ryan Ottens in second place, Christopher Radloff taking third place, Michael LaRue, Kurt Glaschken, Grant Findaley going and making his way around. Christian Easterhouse going to be finishing up in 8th place. Ruan Kleinans taking that following suit. Jan Kleinans just falling a little bit ahead behind his brother. Romeo Jonker, followed by Hannes van Veek, rounding out our entire field. What a race, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know about you, I'm out of breath. And wow. Janneman, you want to unpack what we just saw?
I'm tired. It felt like I was racing. Steve, it seems like the racing in this whole sprint series is getting closer and closer and closer. We spoke about it previously, where I said last week, you know, we saw some side-by-side action from the GT3 cars, almost mimicking what the M2s were doing. And you know what they're going to do tonight, or what they did tonight? They decided, you know, let's one-up that and let's just run 3 wide.
Absolutely amazing times. And well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for joining us for round number 4 of our RaceFace GT3 Sprint Series and the Genisus Sim2Real Cars Series. We'll see you next week with some more craziness that's going to come out. But don't forget, tomorrow night we do have the Metal State Grid Championship, where the guys are going to put it all out on the line right here at Barcelona. And from my side, Stephen Koenig, I'd like to say thank you to everyone joining. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, that bell notification icon, and hit the like if you enjoyed the commentary and enjoyed the racing. We'd love to get that feedback. Janneman, anything from your side before we say cheerio to everyone after we had a glass of water inside their homes?
You drinking water? I think I'm going to need something stronger after this. But Steve, looking forward to tomorrow evening, tomorrow night's race. Almost twice the length, 2 pit stops to be made, so there's going to be a lot more strategy involved. The guys are going to surprise us to what they dream up in terms of strategies again. Very much looking forward to it. Very much looking forward to next week for even closer racing. Maybe they can give us a treat and go 4 wide. Let's see. All remains to be seen.
And don't forget, we do have that 24-hour coming up, and the only way you're going to find out is make sure you hit that subscribe button and follow us on Facebook. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy. We'll see you next time right here at RaceFace.